crime rates climbing higher than the Willis Tower, schools that feel more like holding cells than places of learning, and infrastructure so unstable it makes you wonder where your tax dollars actually go. Welcome to the countdown of the top 10 worst towns to live in Illinois right now. These are the places you definitely don't want to call home. Illinois is often seen as appealing for its suburban lifestyle, affordable housing, and small-town charm. But peel back the postcard image, and you'll find communities that redefine the phrase, worst places to live. We're talking about towns burdened by violent crime, failing schools, vanishing jobs, and a quality of life shaky enough to make settling here a risky gamble. This isn't just an urban versus suburban story. It's about knowing which places to avoid before you load up the moving truck and regret it faster than a bad Tinder match. From collapsing infrastructure to communities trapped in poverty, these towns prove that not every corner of Illinois deserves a second look. Stick around as we count down the 10 worst towns to live in Illinois, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment on which town surprised you most. Number 10, Cairo. At the southern tip of Illinois, where the Mississippi and Ohio rivers meet, lies Cairo, a city once destined for greatness. In the 1920s, it thrived as a river port and commercial hub, home to nearly 15,000 people. Fast forward a century, and the fall is staggering. Today, Cairo's population has collapsed to fewer than 1,700 residents, a nearly 90% decline. When 9 out of 10 people abandon a place, what's really left for those who stay? Sadly, not much. Nearly 40% of residents live in poverty, double the national average, and the jobs that once fueled the local economy dried up long ago. Downtown storefronts sit abandoned, paint peels from forgotten buildings, and broken windows reflect the city's lost promise. Some might defend Cairo by pointing to cheap housing, homes listed around $40,000. But affordable doesn't mean livable. What good is a low price tag when schools are failing, infrastructure is crumbling, and there's no economy to build a future on? It's like buying a car for $500 that doesn't have an engine, a deal that goes nowhere. Cairo's story isn't just about numbers. It's about people. Generations growing up where hope is scarcer than jobs, where the weight of decline is both economic and emotional. When a community loses its sense of future, what's left to build on? That's the reality of Cairo. Rock-bottom living costs paired with rock-bottom quality of life. Before being lured in by cheap real estate, ask yourself, what are you really buying? In Cairo, the bargain comes with baggage no one should want to carry. Number 9. Brooklyn. Tiny in size but massive in problems, Brooklyn, Illinois, has fewer than 600 residents, yet it consistently ranks at the bottom of livability scores. For families, it's often labeled the single worst place to live in Illinois, and the data backs that up. Job opportunities? Virtually non-existent. With such a limited tax base, there's barely enough money to maintain infrastructure or support schools. Education outcomes are bleak, leaving most young people with just one real choice: leave. Community amenities like sidewalks, parks, or safe gathering spaces? Forget it. Brooklyn is so small you can stand on a corner, look around, and see the entire town. Housing might seem tempting at first glance, with ultra-low prices. But affordability here doesn't equal value. Outdated homes and almost no market demand mean that investment will likely stagnate or decline. Building equity here isn't a dream, it's a fantasy. To be fair, Brooklyn carries cultural and historic significance. It's one of the oldest majority black towns in the country, a heritage worth honoring. But heritage doesn't create jobs, and it doesn't fix crumbling infrastructure. With many residents living below the poverty line and few resources to climb out, Brooklyn has become a cautionary tale of decline. Would you raise a family here? Most people want safety, solid schools, and opportunities for their kids. Brooklyn offers none of that. It isn't a stepping stone toward a better life, it's a dead end. Sometimes, being small and affordable doesn't mean cozy. Sometimes, it just means forgotten. Number 8. Harvey. Just south of Chicago, Harvey is a city of about 20,000 residents. On paper, its location should be a huge advantage, right next to one of America's largest economic hubs, with access to highways and transit. But instead of prospering, Harvey has endured decades of decline. Let's start with crime. FBI data shows Harvey is consistently among Illinois' most dangerous suburbs. Violent crime rates are nearly 3 times the national average, giving residents a 1 in 83 chance of becoming a victim. Property crime is rampant, too, from car thefts to break-ins, leaving little sense of security. For a suburb that should offer refuge from Chicago's chaos, Harvey feels more like its extension. The economy doesn't paint a brighter picture. The median household income sits around $39,000, well below state and national averages, and nearly 1/3 of residents live in poverty. Businesses have been leaving for years, shrinking the tax base and leaving the city strapped for cash. The results are obvious: underfunded schools, pothole-ridden roads, and neglected public spaces. Education is another critical issue. Harvey's schools routinely fall short of state standards. Test scores are among the lowest in the area, making it difficult for parents to envision a strong future for their children. For families, that's a deal-breaker. What makes Harvey so frustrating is the wasted potential. Its location should have been a golden ticket, but decades of mismanagement, poverty, and crime have turned it into a cautionary case of urban decline. Would you move here? Could you live in a place where your paycheck barely stretches, your child's education is compromised, and safety is a daily concern? For most, the answer is no. Harvey proves that geography alone doesn't guarantee opportunity. Without leadership, investment, and vision, even the best location can crumble. Number 7. Mount Vernon. Mount Vernon may sound like a postcard-worthy small town in southern Illinois, but the reality is closer to a true crime drama than a Hallmark movie. With about 14,600 residents, this city faces a violent crime rate of 7.4 incidents per 1,000 people, far higher than both state and national averages. To put it bluntly, your odds of encountering violent crime here are higher than in many larger U.S. cities. Small town, but a very big crime problem. The economy doesn't offer much relief either. The median household income sits at $41,000, far below the U.S. average of over $75,000. Nearly 1 in 5 residents live in poverty, and the job market is weak. Manufacturing has dried up, retail is unstable, and good-paying jobs are few and far between. Move here for affordability, and you'll quickly discover that low costs don't help much when paychecks barely cover necessities. Education struggles to keep up as well. Schools in Mount Vernon consistently perform below state standards, while crumbling infrastructure, pothole-filled roads, outdated utilities, and underfunded public resources makes daily life an uphill battle. What's frustrating is that on the surface, Mount Vernon looks like it should be thriving. It has historic architecture, a prime location near major interstates, and that classic Midwestern charm. But scratch beneath the surface and the cracks appear fast. Safe, stable communities require more than appearances. They need jobs, strong schools, and reliable infrastructure, all things Mount Vernon lacks. In the end, Mount Vernon sells the dream of small-town life, but delivers a harsh reality. It proves appearances can be deceiving, and affordability alone can't outweigh crime, poverty, and failing schools. Number 6. Springfield. Springfield, the state capital and the city of Lincoln, should be the pride of Illinois. Instead, it often feels like a capital stuck in neutral. Behind the glossy brochures and historic landmarks lies a city running on autopilot, and not in a good way. Start with crime. Springfield boasts violent crime rates well above the state average, giving residents roughly a 1 in 100 chance of becoming a victim. Property crime is also common, with frequent burglaries and theft keeping many neighborhoods uneasy. For a city of about 113,000, those numbers are troubling. The economy doesn't inspire confidence either. While government jobs provide some stability, the median household income is about $55,000, far below the national average. The private sector struggles with slow growth, stagnant wages, and limited opportunity. Springfield is more affordable than Chicago, yes. But what's the value of affordability when it comes with higher crime and fewer opportunities? Schools don't help the picture. Public schools in Springfield rank below the state average in both math and reading, leaving many parents concerned about their children's futures. Add to that aging infrastructure, from roads to public utilities, and the capital often feels patched together rather than properly maintained. The irony is hard to ignore. Springfield has the ingredients for success: historic landmarks, steady tourism, and the visibility of being the state capital. Yet despite all that, it consistently ranks among Illinois' worst places to live. Titles don't guarantee quality of life, and Springfield is proof that reputation can be misleading. Number 5. Rockford. Rockford, Illinois' third largest city, has roughly 147,000 residents. On paper, it looks like a thriving regional hub. In reality, it's earned an unfortunate reputation as one of the most dangerous and economically troubled cities in the state. The crime stats tell the story. Residents face a 1 in 89 chance of becoming a victim of violent crime, one of the highest rates in Illinois. That's the kind of number that makes people double-check their locks at night. Economically, Rockford has never recovered from its manufacturing collapse. Once a proud industrial city, it's been stuck in decline for decades. Unemployment remains above state averages, and while new industries have trickled in, many neighborhoods are still weighed down by abandoned factories and lost jobs. The numbers are grim. A median household income of $49,000, far below the national average, and about 22% of residents living in poverty. That's nearly 1 in 4 people struggling just to get by. Affordable housing doesn't mean much when opportunity is this scarce. Schools add to the challenge. Public education in Rockford ranks below state averages in both math and reading, and funding issues make improvement difficult. Combine that with neglected infrastructure, potholes, aging utilities, and underfunded services, and everyday life feels like a constant grind. What makes Rockford so frustrating is its potential. Sitting on the Rock River, with a strategic location between Chicago and Milwaukee, and cultural assets to draw on, it should be thriving. But instead, crime, poverty, and stagnation overshadow every effort at revitalization. Rockford offers big city size, but until it tackles its core issues, it will remain the kind of big most people want to avoid. Number 4. East St. Louis. East St. Louis is infamous across the nation, and not for good reasons. Once a booming industrial hub along the Mississippi River, today it's a textbook example of urban decline, plagued by violent crime, deep poverty, and failing infrastructure. At times, East St. Louis has had the highest per capita homicide rate in the entire United States. With a population of just 18,000, the city's violent crime rates are 5 to 6 times the national average, putting residents at constant risk. Property crime piles on as well, with burglary, theft, and vandalism part of daily life. The economy is equally dire. The median household income sits around $26,000, among the lowest in the state, and more than 30% of residents live below the poverty line. Infrastructure reflects years of neglect, crumbling roads, deteriorating public buildings, and failing utilities. Schools are underfunded and underperforming, leaving families with little hope for better opportunities. East St. Louis is a cautionary tale of what happens when deindustrialization, poor management, and disinvestment collide. Factories that once fueled the local economy now stand abandoned, rusting reminders of better days. Even revitalization attempts have struggled under the weight of decades of decline. The cruel irony? Just across the river stands the Gateway Arch, a symbol of opportunity and progress. But for East St. Louis residents, opportunity often feels permanently out of reach. Would you move to a place where safety is never guaranteed, income barely covers the basics, and infrastructure feels abandoned? For most people, the answer is no. East St. Louis isn't just struggling, it's a warning of how far a city can fall without meaningful change. Number 3. Peoria. Will it play in Peoria? Was once the phrase used to measure mainstream appeal in America. But when it comes to safety, stability, and livability today, the answer is simple: not anymore. With about 111,000 residents, Peoria is the largest city on this list so far. But size doesn't equal quality of life. The violent crime rate stands at 1,213 incidents per 100,000 people. That's nearly 3 times the national average. In plain terms, you're far more likely to be mugged in Peoria than entertained. Economically, the city has struggled since Caterpillar Inc. moved its global headquarters in 2017, taking prestige and opportunity with it. The median household income hovers around $55,000, below the national average, while nearly 1 in 5 residents live in poverty. Pair that with rising property crime, burglaries, car thefts, and vandalism, and Peoria starts to feel less like the heart of Illinois, and more like the heartburn of Illinois. Education adds another layer of concern. Public schools consistently perform below state averages in both math and reading, leaving many families unsure about their children's futures. And yet, Peoria has undeniable assets: a location on the Illinois River, cultural attractions, healthcare hubs, and districts that could thrive with the right investment. Unfortunately, those positives remain overshadowed by crime, slow economic growth, and a lingering negative image. Once a benchmark of American appeal, Peoria now stands as a cautionary tale of what happens when industry leaves and reinvestment never truly arrives. Number 2. Danville. Danville shows up on nearly every worst places to live list in Illinois, and unfortunately, the reputation fits. With a population of about 28,000, residents here face a 1 in 67 chance of becoming a victim of violent crime, making Danville the second most dangerous city in Illinois. But crime is just the beginning. The local economy paints a bleak picture. Median household income sits around $42,000, far below the national average, and nearly 25% of residents live in poverty. With limited access to well-paying jobs, many families are stuck in low-wage cycles. A low cost of living doesn't help when paychecks barely cover the basics. Housing may look affordable, often under $100,000, but appearances are misleading. High property crime, blight, and declining demand mean investments lose value quickly. Buying in Danville can feel like buying a boat with holes. It takes constant effort just to stay afloat. Schools fall short of state benchmarks, infrastructure suffers from decades of neglect, and quality of life continues to erode. Unsurprisingly, the population is shrinking as more people pack up and leave. Danville has history and a strategic location, but today it feels less like a fresh start and more like a dead end. Number 1. Chicago Heights. Topping the list is Chicago Heights, and not because it's underrated. This suburb has earned the unfortunate title of Illinois' worst place to live. The crime rate is staggering. According to FBI data, Chicago Heights reports 1,737 violent crimes per 100,000 residents, nearly 5 times higher than the state average. Even Chicagoans raise their eyebrows at those numbers. Economically, things aren't better. The median household income is about $55,000, still below the national average, while nearly 1 in 4 residents live in poverty. Pair high poverty with extreme crime, and you've got a recipe for hardship. Despite being part of the greater Chicago metro, Chicago Heights doesn't share in the prosperity of wealthier suburbs or the opportunities of the downtown core. Instead, it faces struggling schools, limited job growth, and infrastructure that feels worn down and neglected. Housing might seem like a bargain, with median home values under $150,000, but cheap doesn't equal safe or promising. It's like being offered a bargain car that won't start, technically affordable, but costly in every other way. The most sobering fact? Chicago Heights isn't an abandoned outpost. It's home to nearly 27,000 people, many working hard to build better lives. But when crime, poverty, and failing schools pile up against you, the odds are stacked. Chicago Heights isn't just Illinois' most dangerous city, it's a reminder that not every suburb is a safe haven. Sometimes, it's just another tragedy waiting to happen. And there you have it, the top 10 worst places to live in Illinois. From crumbling infrastructure and underperforming schools to crime rates that make even GPS apps hesitate, these cities highlight the hard truth that not every corner of Illinois is worth calling home. But behind every statistic are real people, families, workers, and neighbors, doing their best to change things. That's what makes this more than just numbers on a list. So what do you think? Did any of these names surprise you, or did they confirm what you already suspected? Let me know in the comments below. And if you're researching places to live, relocation tips, or towns to avoid, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you won't miss our next deep dive into America's best and worst places to live. Remember, moving is easy, but regretting where you move? That's the real nightmare.